Do you think the audiences of people like Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, Tybee in some sense as well, have they brought over their audiences to this right wing message, or have they simply changed audiences to Tucker's audience now and are feeding into that? Because I check out someone like Jimmy Dore, who I haven't looked at his channel or haven't looked at his channel in a few months now, but he had a video that was calling out a cop like a year ago, year and a half ago or something, and you look at the comments there, and he got eviscerated by his by people that watched the video. His audience clearly is right wing now, so it makes me wonder, are people even being fooled by these individuals? Like it really just appears to be a way to try and speak to maybe a larger reactionary working class base that's out there, as opposed to bringing over the audience they once had, because what they are seeing is how much the large audience they can now potentially tap into by going to a place like Tucker, as opposed to serving their existing audiences.
Yeah, I mean that is a good question. I think that they have certainly adopted a lot of the right wing audience that has come with appearing on mainstream corporate right wing radio, right wing media, TV specifically. I mean Tucker. I mean Tucker's really the one that we're talking about. We could talk about Joe Rogan as well as an example of right wing corporate media. Like these very well paid right wing mouthpieces with large audiences. Um, I wonder. I mean, I think that there's a large group of people who were supporters of Sanders and kind of got into politics because of Bernie in 2016. And I mean, well, for a much larger group, right? Like starting with that large group, but within that large group, there was also a group who maybe had like maybe some more socially conservative views or were tilting more right and more conspiratorial, and uh, they're the audience being cultivated right now by Dorr and Blumenthal and Taibbi and Greenwald. Although Taibbi and Greenwald kind of, I think, it's a little bit different in that they they are kind of appealing to a more mainstream, independent thinker
Hmm.
politics, if that makes sense. Like they want people from Fox. They also want disaffected MSNBC and CNN viewers. They also want people who have no time for corporate media. Like they want everybody.
Yeah.
People like Dorr are more interested in just going after people who have uh, fringe beliefs. I mean, this is I mean, you see this with Dorr just going on and on about like the vaccine or his affinity
Yeah.
now for these far right militias and screaming at Richard Wolff about like the trucker convoy and just like one thing
Yeah.
after another. I think that I mean, to call Dorr anything other than like a fringe right wing agitator at this point is just not accurate.
Absolutely.
And and like all of his hangers on, these marginal personalities who kind of orbit him and do much of the same thing, especially with the anti-vax stuff and the kind of I mean I'm not crazy about this term, but I guess like this kind of like red brown alliance kind of thing,
Hmm.
which they have been doing. So because I mean, the reason I don't like it is I don't think there's any red there. But so yeah, I mean it's just like these kind of like conservative voices. But I think that they are all different, but really, I mean, I noticed it during, I think it was last year when Pete Buttigieg, who obviously had no love for, do not like the guy at all, but he came back from paternity leave because he and his husband have, I think it's maybe they have twins. They have at least one child now. And Tucker on his show, basically said that Buttigieg needed to learn how to breastfeed and like really
Yeah.
just sneered at the idea that a man could take parental leave and all. I mean, there was just like layers of homophobia there and also some transphobia. Um, And I mean, it was a pretty ugly comment. Even Greenwald was motivated to vaguely hand wave at it, while not, of course, going after Tucker, because he still wants to go on Tucker, and he doesn't have the courage to do something like that. But he was certainly willing to hand wave at it. And but this joke that Carlson made then just kind of like trickled down. You saw Dorr doing it, and then you saw other
Mm-hmm.
right wing personalities that appeal to the quote unquote left doing it. And so I think that you can kind of look at Carlson as kind of the node for these men. I mean, same thing with like the this crack pipe meme. I mean, I was seeing like all of these kind of uh, marginal online Twitter personalities who used to identify as left, who were making like a big deal out of it. It's like the same
Yeah.
thing. There's no principle behind anything that these guys are saying.
Mm.
The only principle is Tucker said it, and if I repeat it enough, maybe he'll notice me somehow. Maybe he'll eventually have me on the show. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's all that this is. There's no. I think that anyone looking for any kind of ideological consistency or principles among these people, as far as their laundering of Tucker's reputation goes, you're looking at the wrong thing. It doesn't exist. All they want is to be on TV. That's all that they want, and they see Tucker as the way to do it. And so they're just going to kiss his ass until he does, or until it doesn't work and they have to try something else.
Yeah, which amazes me to think that anybody actually falls for this crap that isn't already on the right, or a conservative. Like you mentioned the crack pipe thing. We've had harm reduction in Canada forever, and it's like this is an obvious step to try and reduce harm of drug users, and to use that as a way to get to freak out about this is so completely void of any actual consistency or any actual knowledge of the issue and how to deal with it. It really is. It's gross, but part of what gives me hope here, honestly, is that I really don't think they're serving a working class, left wing audience. I mean, maybe, I'm sure there are people, of course, culturally who are tied in, who get brought into this crap and are fooled by it. But by and large, their audiences, I just think, have changed. And someone honest, I think Rogan is a little more dangerous in the sense that he is not an ideologue. I think he is just sort of a dumb guy. I watched him for years, and he's really just an idiot. And he talks about how he's a moron. Like, it's not it's not a secret that he's dumb.
Yeah, I
But
I
so what he does, he sort of
I don't
I
know.
think helps to recycle some of this crap, because a podcast like Rogan's, you sort of go in there not really expecting, the average listener goes in there not really expecting to have a political discussion, but I think are sort of eased into these ridiculous ideas by some of the guests he has on. Whereas with Tucker, I think a lot of people, you're watching Fox News, you maybe expect to be a little on more on guard when listening to something like Tucker Carlson. But Rogan, because I don't think he is malicious in his intent, I just think he's dumb. I think that potentially even has potentially a worse impact. Especially you look at the amount of listeners he has, a lot of the anti-vax crap, the same crap that Tucker's been talking about. So obviously we're comparing two horrible platforms here, but I do think there is something to be said for the difference between Tucker and his clearly ideological project, as opposed to Rogan, and I think his more open platform that is largely just favoring right wing guests.
Yeah, I don't think that Rogan is stupid at all. I think Rogan's very smart. I mean, he got $100 million contract from Spotify. Um, he he has been perpetuating a right wing message for years now. He has been choosing people to bring on. Um, he uses "I'm just a dumb guy" as an excuse whenever he crosses the line a little bit. Say if he has someone on who you can't really even you can't even like really like pretend that they're not who they are. I mean, like Chuck Johnson is a good example. He had him on, but he's also he's had on all kinds of of dangerous idiots, um, and I think that his persona of being a dumb guy is his appeal, but I don't think that he's stupid at all. I would disagree with you on that. I think that he's very smart, and I think that he's very aware of what he's doing. I
That's
do
funny
think
because I definitely don't agree with that because Chuck Johnson, he had him on, I guess it was 2015, 2014, but he never had him back on. It was clear that Rogan did push back a little bit in that interview, clearly not enough. It was ridiculous to have
right.
that guy on to begin with, but I think he's largely fooled. This is what I've, again, after watching his show between like 2013 and 2016, I watched a lot of episodes of Rogan's show. It's a lot of just he's fooled by people that speak like this into the mic. They're very calm. They like a Sam Harris, like a Jordan Peterson, Brett Weinstein. Like he's fooled by these idiots because they speak slowly and they sound like they're intellectuals, but in reality they aren't. And he's had on, he had on Cornel West, and he read Cornel West's book. He praised him. He supported Bernie Sanders. I think he really is, and I think he's been able to be successful because he doesn't, he's unaware of his power. And because he's unaware of his power, he has these conversations without really knowing anything about what the person in front of him is saying. And he is just sitting there to, absorb this crap. And he changes depending on who his guest is. He'll have on Cornel West, he'll agree with him on everything. Then he'll have on, Jordan Peterson, agree with him on everything. So he just flips back and forth. He has no real consistency except when it comes to like, exercise or mixed martial arts. But everything else, he sort of just moves with the wind. And that's been a
Yeah.
dangerous platform because of that.
I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. I think that I mean I just can't wrap my head around him being stupid. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like admittedly, I've only listened to like two of his episodes. I'm certainly not an expert, but it's difficult for me to go down that route. But anyway, I mean, whatever the case, right? Like these ideas are percolating their way into the mainstream and into like kind of fringe uh, corners of the left and are kind of drawing them to the right. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's important for us to like be aware that that is happening, and especially when it comes to large corporate media figures like Tucker Carlson, like Joe Rogan, like Laura Ingraham, like I'm trying to think of the other people that have on all of our friends. Yeah, I mean, like they are the figures that we're talking about, outside of the ones who are actually on Fox or on Spotify for $100 million, they are part of the corporate media. They are part of the corporate right wing media because they are part of the Fox News cinematic universe, as it were, and so they they are selling their audience a bill of goods that is increasingly leaning to the right. And um, I mean, you can kind of see this with other figures that are starting to make this shift. They're starting to make the change, um, and it always kind of happens the same way. They're just like, hey, we're just having a couple of conversations. We're just asking some questions here. The questions always tend to kind of focus on the same thing, and it just and it's just there are a couple code words. There are a couple, like it's about like open discourse, but it's always only about open discourse to the right, and
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of goes from there. So I just think that people should be aware that that's happening, and be aware that anyone, and I think this is like the most important thing to me, is that anyone who is telling you that Tucker Carlson is anti-war, or that Tucker Carlson is a friend of the working class, or is speaking to real Americans, etc. Like, they have utter contempt for you. They think that you are so stupid that you cannot possibly understand what this guy is all about. And anyone who is talking to you like that and you're a part of their audience, I would strongly recommend like not being part of their audience, because they have no respect for you. They think that you're stupid, and they are uh, using your gullibility to further their own power and career and audience, and they have no interest in in uh, in having any respect for you, or in any of the principles that you might think that they have. It's just pure contempt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a good place to to end there. But Owen Higgins, thanks again for coming on. Where can people find your work?
Yeah, I mean, my Twitter account has links to my newsletter and my podcast right on it. That's EoinHiggins underscore. And it's owenhiggins.substack.com, and the Flashpoint podcast on Colin.
Awesome. All right, I'll link to all that below the video on YouTube as well. And Owen, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.